Well, it's review time again, once more, and today we're not having a look at a locomotive, but we're having a look at a wagon, as you can see. Now, this is something I've been meaning to review for a long time now, because this wagon has sat in its box since the beginning of the year. You will all know in January, I do believe it was it January? Yes, it was January. I went to a toy fair, which is where I also got the Bachmann Ivet 2MT Flying Pig, basically. And I also got this as well, which is made by Wrenn, which it's technically a Wrenn model, because it was around the time when Wrenn was taking over the tooling from Triang. Because this is not Triang packaging, it's Wrenn packaging. Because Triang packaging is red, this packaging is grey. So the top half is dark grey and the bottom bit is a lighter grey, and you got these images of trains on the side of the box, basically on both sides. But that's not really too important right now. So I finally got around to doing a review of this wagon, which you did see briefly in the review of the Bachmann Flying Pig. So I did say then I was going to do a review on this, so now is the time to finally review it. It's a 6-wheeled milk tanker, by the way, but I think you already knew that. And it's in the United Dairies livery. So it's simple packaging, all we do is just open the box, like that. Lift the model out of the plastic tray. And there you go. That's all there is to the packaging. So, where to start? Well, I'm not going to do a history lesson on this model. There's a white mark on the model there, simply because it's not really worth it for a review on this wagon, if I'm honest. But either way, we'll make a start. Well, the first thing is, there is actually a fair bit of weight in this, considering it's just a wagon, and that is because the chassis is made of metal. But even though it is made of metal, there is still some detail on it. You've got the axle boxes and the springs, and there's some rivets on the underframe as well. Or should I say just frame, rather. Now the couplings are big. Now they're not going to be slimmer tension couplings that you see today, but you could always take them off and add some on if you wanted, but you would have to glue them in place. You can also, there's a screw in there which basically holds the body onto the chassis, because back then things were different. It's not like it is now. The wheels of course are plastic, but you know, that's how it mostly was in those days. It were on rolling stock, mostly metal. Sorry, mostly plastic wheels. You did have some rolling stock with metal wheels on, but not as much as you do now. You could take them out, I suppose, and put metal wheels in. Well, that said, I don't think you can take them out, which is interesting. But either way, what is interesting though about the middle wheel of this wagon is that the middle wheel is a floating wheel. You can tell by just looking at it. I mean, it's no good if I use my finger, because it's not really going to show, but the middle wheel actually doesn't sit on the rails. It's a floating wheel. Only these two wheels do. Which is quite intriguing that they're doing it like that, because I had expected the third wheel to have also touched on the rails. You can only see it when you're really close up, because it is hard to notice actually, so I will give them a plus for that, because the way they've done it is it's hard to see, but you can kind of tell when looking at it that these two wheels do move and the middle one doesn't, so that kind of gives it away. But at least there's a third wheel there though, because Dapple and Hornby make these tankers now, and of course on them the wheels are metal and there isn't a floating wheel basically. But even so, the buffers are not going to be sprung, but you know, to be fair, the chassis is made of metal, and this is going back, crikey, how many years ago was this model made? Because there's no date on the box. It's going back years old, so back then you wouldn't have had sprung buffers anyway, but even if you did, I don't really have much care for sprung buffers anyway. You do get some nice detail here though, which is made of plastic, and it looks really nice. And also you do get some ladders as well. Now these are made of metal, which is nice, because on the Hornby ones they're made of plastic, and so they're more fragile because they can break easy. But these ones, they're more sturdy and not so easy to break. So I like that they've done that. It's nice to have the ladders made of metal. This detail here is that detail made of metal? I think it is, because it doesn't bend these. I think this detail here is metal as well. I think it's just painted, which is nice, because again, on the Hornby and the Dapple ones, this detail here, sorry, get it right. This detail here is plastic on the Hornby and the Dapple ones, but here it seems to be made of metal of some sort, and that's actually quite nice. Yet this detail here is made of plastic, but you know, that's not really a problem. And of course there's the cap to load it with milk, as it's United Dairy's wagon. That's plastic as well, but you know, I didn't expect it to be made of anything else. Now the livery, it's quite nice. I actually do like it. Even though it's just got UD written on it, that does stand for United Dairies, which is quite nice. You can get some that say United Dairies in full print on it, but I actually do like this wagon just having the initials UD on the side, because it does look quite nice, in my opinion. And I do have two of the Hornby 6-wheeled milk tankers. I'll just get one of them out to compare it. Okay, so here's one of the two Hornby 6-wheeled milk tankers I have. And here's the one made by Wrenn, formerly Triang. And comparing them, there isn't too much difference. The livery is a difference for a start, but with these you do have removable couplings, which is one thing, and they are slimmer. But these have had to be glued into place because they came off. That there's just a bit of glue, which is dried up on there. Just thought I'd point that out. And of course with this one, the wheels are metal, and all three of them sit on the rails. You know, because you can spin that middle wheel. With this one you can't. Well, actually you can now, beg your pardon, but you know, even so, it doesn't sit on the rails anyway. But you know, the ladders on the side are made of plastic, so that is fragile, so you've got to be really careful because they break easy, and this detail here is made of plastic. So even though it's an older tooling, that is a plus for Wrenn. But you know, we can't really have everything. But you know, the buffers are not going to be sprung on this model either. Interestingly though, with the Dapple Wrenn model, there's no coupling hook on the buffer beam. That's something the model lacks. On this model, you can see it there, on both ends. See now, that's probably a plus for Hornby actually, as well as the metal wheels and the removable couplings. And of course, you do get a screw in there actually to hold the body on the chassis in place. But the chassis is different, as you can see slightly, because there is some underframe detail that the Wrenn one does not have. But you know, these are still nice models, and I still recommend you have them on the layout, because I have 3 of these 6-wheeled milk tankers, and I have 2 of the 4-wheel ones, so that really will make a nice train going around the layout. But yeah, that's basically all there is to say about this wagon. There isn't much else to say. We've covered everything in detail. You can't get these models new now though, because you can only really get them from toy fairs like where I got this one from, or second-hand websites like eBay or Gumtree or whatever. But you can still get hold of them. It's not hard to find them. So, let's get this on the tracks. Right, so we're here at the track, and I've already made up a nice little train using the other milk tankers and a brake couch. So just going to put the Wrenn milk tanker onto the track. Okay, so it's coupled up. And so we're going to get a locomotive pulling these around the track. And for this video I'm going to utilise the Batman N-Class, which I'm sure by now you've all seen the review of it. I have got some head code discs on the front of it, and they're the ones that came with the Batman E4, the ones that just slot into place on the lamp irons, because there is blue tack on the back of them. Okay, so we don't need to give the locomotive a wiggle, running it up and down with this train. Let's just get it going. Okay, well this is not the first time this wagon has ever been run around the layout being pulled by a locomotive, but it's running quite smoothly, which is what you want at the end of the day. And yes, this locomotive is running a bit faster, but still. Also it helps if you've got a locomotive that can cope well. All my locomotives can. But you know, that does help. I've used the N-Class because we haven't seen much of it. So I thought I'd give it another appearance in a video. Which is the wise thing to do, naturally. But you are going to see it in more videos, of course, just like all the other models, but you know what I mean. And the head code is supposed to be for milk train. I don't know if that's the right one, but that's what I was trying to get at. So I'm sure it's the right head code. And if it's not, then I need the sack. But I'm pretty certain it's the right one. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. Yeah, I mean, this looks a really nice train. It would be good if the Heritage Railways did something like this with the Monsell U-Class locomotives, which is similar to this locomotive, which is the N-Class, which is what this loco is. But you already knew that. I know this is not a review of the locomotive, but let's just zoom in on that link motion. In fact, speaking of the locomotive, I might as well just talk about the fact that the tender, off camera, kept derailing around the bend up there. Just wait for it to come back round. So I can tell you which bend I'm talking about. It's that bend just over there. The tender kept derailing on it, so I had to sort that out. It seems to cope all right now. I don't know if the brake coach is entirely accurate on the end of the train, but I actually think it does look nice on the end of it. But anyway, I think we'll get some close-ups of this train running around the layout. I think. Okay, well I should point out, off camera, I have put some extra weight in the tender of the N-Class, because even though I said the problem had been sorted of the tender derailing, it still kept derailing after that, off camera. So that problem hopefully is now fixed, because the tender was really light. You know, there wasn't much weight in there, but, you know, I'm just pointing that out. Because, you know, it really isn't fair when Hornby get all the criticism. But even so. So now I think we're free to get some close-up shots of this now. Right, so for the conclusion then, well, it's not going to get a high score, I'll be honest, because it's an old model and it's something you can't really get now. Excuse the dogs. But you know what I will say is that if you're a collector who likes collecting older models, then this is something that might be worth getting. But then it is still worth getting in a way, even if you collect the newer stuff that we get nowadays. So it still makes a great addition on the layout. And if you want to recreate a train like this, well, it's perfect. It might not be the most detailed wagon there is out there, but it's still nice for what it is and considering how old it is. And that's credit in its own right.